Okay, perfect. So hi everyone, welcome to our Workshop Wednesday series. This week, I'm going to keep our introduction really short because we have a very important topic that we're talking about today. So summer is kind of winding down. We're starting to get back into school mode. We know a lot of high school students are starting college apps, or undergrads who already finished might be applying for master's or higher degrees. And so we are very excited and very grateful to be offering this workshop today that is focusing on helping folks write your personal statement. It is going to be presented by Jenan Abu Hakmeh, who is a Fulbright scholar and has a range of internship and work experience in the government and the private sector. She was also a participant in PAC's first Homeland Project in 2017. I want to thank you so much, Jenan, for taking the time to give back resources to our community. We really appreciate it, and the floor is all yours.
Of course, thank you so much, Abid, for the introduction, and I'm so happy to be here today to share some of the best tips that I found are useful in writing your personal statement. So I'm just going to jump right in. And first, I just want to talk a little bit about what a personal statement is not and what a personal statement is. It should most definitely not be a resume in narrative form, because whatever you're applying to, you're going to submit a resume, you're going to submit your work history, and tell them all your extracurricular involvement and show them how you spend your time. So you will definitely include a discussion and a detailed account of a couple aspects on your resume, but you definitely want to steer clear of just narrating all the details of your resume. And it's should not be written in an objective tone. It's going to be a statement that's really just a personal essay about you, and it's written in the first person, and it's supposed to help answer the question, why you, right? Because this statement is going to be going to an admission committee or a selection committee of some sort, and you really want them to, at the end of reading your personal statement, have a good feeling of why they should pick you for whatever program you are applying to. And that can be done in a variety of ways. But first, just to approach the personal statement in general, I really want to prompt you to take a moment to think about yourself as an individual. And I want you to sit and brainstorm answers to these important questions. And there are going to be a lot of questions throughout my presentation, but the good thing is that I'm making you do the hard part now. If you sit and think about these questions and write answers down in a notebook and save these answers, you will have a better idea of what to write your personal statement about. And we'll go through how to brainstorm and ultimately pick what topic to write about. But answering these questions now helps get the hard part out of the way. So really, I want you to think about what were some defining moments in your life. It could be a trip that you took, like a trip back to your home country. It can be a vacation. It could be an accident. It could be any sort of experience, whether it's personal or it can be an academic experience as well. But really, the key thing is that it should be something that defined your life and helped set you on the course that you are headed towards. And also, I want you to be able to brainstorm what kinds of extracurricular activities you're involved in. How do you spend your time on a day-to-day basis, during the day, in the evening, on the weekends? How do you spend your time, and why do you choose to spend your time that way? Another question that you can answer is, what are you proud of yourself for? Did you accomplish something really cool in high school or another time in your life that you're really proud of? Also, what are some things that inspire you, or who inspires you? And also, I want you to think about your strengths, because ultimately this personal statement is supposed to speak to who you are as a person, your character and your strengths, and all the qualities or the best qualities that really make you you and make you stand out from the crowd. And after you sat and thought about yourself as an individual, I want you to now think about yourself as a member of your community. Why is that important? because ultimately applying to a college or a program is you asking to become part of a community. So colleges and programs want to know that you're not just an individual who is self-aware, you're also someone who is going to integrate in their community and add value to it, right? And based off of your previous extracurricular involvement and knowing how you enjoy spending your time and what your strengths are, you can start to think about what you will do when you're in this new community. But first, think about what communities you're currently a part of and how you add value to them, because that'll help you ultimately think and paint a better picture about how you'll add value to the new college community. So thinking about yourself now in the present, what communities are you a part of? This can be your home, your township, your school, your religious organization, house of worship, Palestinian American Community Center, anything. And by spending time in these different community spaces, what have you learned about yourself? Is there something that you discovered about yourself by entering these different spaces? And also try to think about how you have added value to any of these communities that you're a part of. And it doesn't have to be something super specific. If you led an event or volunteered as a part of something, that's great. But even showing up counts. You never want to undersell yourself. Just being present in your community and paying attention to people and helping others in any way all adds value to those community spaces. And if in any way that you used your talents or strengths to help others in those communities, that's a bonus point. And you definitely want to be able to speak to that, because again, the purpose of this exercise is to be able to convey and understand your presence in your community, because when you're applying to these programs in colleges, you want them to know that and feel comfortable and confident that you are not just going to be someone that they admit and you just focus on your studies and don't worry about anyone else. They most definitely want people who are going to come and be integrated and involved members of their community, whether it's joining clubs that they already have on campus or starting a new club of your own. The possibilities are endless, but they really just want to see that you've thought through these things, you've thought through who you are as an individual and who you are as a member of your community. And ultimately, the purpose of me prompting you with those questions is because I want you to be able to communicate those key experiences and aspirations that you have, right? Because writing a personal statement is really an opportunity for you to share the details, just some of the key details about your life in a way that demonstrates what's unique to you, what your unique experiences and motivations are. And what I find is that the best kind of personal statement grabs the reader's attention in the beginning with a compelling story. And I'll talk about how we'll do that. So you want to be able to start with the story and creatively, ultimately convey an answer to the question, why you? Because that's the most important question at the end of an admission or selection committee reading your personal statement. One popular question that some admissions committees will ask after reading a personal statement is, okay, who would like to have lunch with this person? Basically, they really just want to know, after reading your personal statement, why they should pick you, why they would want to run into you on campus. Would they like to have a conversation with you? Would they like to have lunch with you? And what can help in standing out from the crowd is if you try to paint a picture about yourself and ultimately convey how getting a college education or being a part of this college community will help you better serve community and society, right? Because having a vision for making a difference in your community and society will help you stand out from the crowd. you'll have having a really good idea of who you are and how you want to help others is something that will just make your application stand out. So now we'll just get into the nitty-gritty structure of the personal statement. In the beginning, like I mentioned, you want to narrate a story about a time that significantly impacted your life, right? That vacation or that trip or that accident or something impactful that happened to your life. And then you want to dive into highlighting the significance of that story. Why did you pick that story? And what did you learn from that story? What did you do because of that event or experience? And then you want to be able to tie that into who you are and where you're headed. And I'll dive into each of these now. So when narrating the story about a time that significantly impacted your life, you want to be able to convey what happened, where, give details about where, when, and how. And you really want to be careful to show, not tell your story. And this is something that takes a lot of hard work to master. So just being aware of this rule is important. And it definitely is something that takes a lot of practice to master. But you want to be able to show the story and make the reader see and feel as you did. Just, you're going to have to try and pick language that helps convey the exact setting of the story, as opposed to you just telling it for what it was. You really want to pull at the reader's heartstrings and make them feel and experience what you felt and experienced in that moment of your life. And then you're going to try to use the next few paragraphs to explain why you picked that story without directly explaining why you picked that story. You're going to try to pick words that help convey what you learned from the experience, what you did as a result of the lessons learned, how that experience shaped who you are today, and if that experience impacted your study and career plans. Maybe you had a really bad accident and got rushed to the hospital and then developed a love for healthcare professionals and decided that you wanted to become a healthcare professional, right? You want to be able to tell the story and then tie it into how it impacted you and your study plans and your career trajectory. And that's why you'll have to brainstorm a few different ideas to see which kind of story best conveys what you're trying to tell the admissions committee, what you're trying to tell the selection committee. And these are the paragraphs where you really tie in like the meat of your essay, the meat of your personal statement, where you want to convey why. And this is where you tie in all those details that we worked on in the first couple slides about yourself and about your community involvement. And this is a really great space in the essay to show your real world application of your knowledge and skills, right? To show that you're not just someone who sits in school and takes tests, that you apply the knowledge that you learn in the spaces around you, and that you're an active and engaged member of your community, because these are all qualities that they want to see in their student body ultimately. And then at the end, it would be advantageous for you to be able to express what your future plans are. How has the experience or story that you told defined your interests? How have the extracurriculars and community involvement that you've experienced defined your future interests? Are there specific clubs that you might want to be a part of when you're in this college because of your past experience in certain clubs? And you want to be able to convey what's motivating you to apply for college. If you're the first person who's going to go to college in your family, you want to make sure that you say that. If you're the first person who's going to study to become a doctor in your family, say that. This is the last paragraph where you really want to highlight why you're applying to the specific college or program. It could be generic, or you can tailor it for each school. Tailoring is obviously better, but it just means more work for you. But if you've narrowed down your college search to a specific city, this is the paragraph where you'll talk about why you want to study in New York City compared to all other cities in the world. This is also the paragraph where you can try to mention how you're going to add value to your college community. And this is just the space that you'd want to be able to connect those beginning paragraphs about your past experiences and what your interests are in the present to your future plans, so that you can ultimately leave the reader with a solid sense and understanding of why they should pick you. You don't want them to read through the essay and just read a story about you and what you learned, and then they'll just be left hanging. A lot of people do omit this paragraph and think that they should just tell a story and what they learned. And I advise against that, because then you're cutting yourself short and you're leaving the reader hanging as to guess at why they should pick you. You don't want to spend too much time talking about why you specifically, but it would be advantageous for you to spend just one paragraph at the end after telling a compelling story and narrative about your experiences and who you are as a person and how you engage with your community and how you apply what you learn, to tie up that personal statement with one succinct paragraph that ties it all together, that shows that you are self-aware and that you are an active member of your community and you do have plans for the future and you will add value to this program or college community. And then these are just 5 tips ultimately that I want you to remember when working on your personal statement. It is a lot of work, but this is why it's good to start the process early. That's why we're offering the workshop in August, so that hopefully we catch you before the craziness of the school semester starts. And you really want to be able to have time to be creative, and being creative requires a lot of free space and time to think. So you really want to sit in a quiet space or at a cafe or wherever you do your best thinking and your best creative work, and just get a piece of paper out and just start writing. What are several stories? Brainstorm a few different stories that you could potentially tell. If you know one key experience that really defined your life and you want to go with that, that's great. But I definitely would advise people to try to brainstorm different ideas just to see what your options are, so that ultimately when you pick your strongest 2 or 3 ideas, you can write freely about them. Don't worry about writing the perfect essay the first time. No one does. And the first draft could be over 1,000 words, and that's okay. Usually, for example, the Common App essay, I think, is 650 words. It's more than fine to write double the word count in the beginning and then chop it down later. And that's why you're supposed to write multiple drafts and just worry about the word count later. And ultimately, you want to try to focus on showing rather than telling your stories. And very, very importantly, even if you are the best writer in the world, you need other people to look at your essay for you, just to check for content flow and clarity, grammar and spelling. And this is really important, because what makes sense to you is not necessarily going to make sense to others. And you want to make sure that whatever you're trying to convey is a well-received, thought out personal statement to any reader. So that's why you can't just have your sister who thinks and acts just like you to read it and then say, yes, it sounds great. You try to pick people who think differently than you so that they can give you insight and say, hey, this sentence doesn't really make sense. Or they can ask you, what do you mean by this? You want to be able to ideally have a conversation with people about your essay, so that you can get live feedback. and fix it up, because ultimately the more time you spend working on this, the better it will become. And it really just is something that the more time you spend on it, the better it will become. And I say that twice because no one's first draft is good. No one's second draft is that great either. I think every time I've written a personal statement, whether it was for college or a fellowship application or grad school applications, minimum 5 drafts. So don't be discouraged by that. Just know that it takes a lot of time and planning, and you should give yourself several weeks for this process, because it's really going to work to your advantage the more time you spend on it. And that's really all I had to share with you today. I'd be happy to answer more questions. I do offer tutoring hours to help people work on their personal statements, and you can reach me at my personal email, abuhakmeh.j@gmail.com. And I hope you were able to take some notes and think about yourself and get started on the personal statement process. Thank you, Abid, and thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jenan. This was really helpful. I know we talked about it, but I wish I had this when I was first applying. So thank you so much for sharing this and just for offering your support for the community. I'm going to put this slide on our social media also. So if anyone needs it, I'm sure they'll be contacting you if they have anything else. Thank you so much. Have a good night.
You too.
Okay.